Hello, everyone. This is once again Dr. Swati Mishra taking the Indian Business House sessions with you from International School of Business Management at Suresh Gyan, Vihar University. Today, we are going to discuss a very important case of an extremely successful Indian business house, which you know faced a very unfortunate fate due to some misfortune and some incorrect decisions while doing the business. And this case study is none other than the case study of one of the most famous coffee chains of India. Yes, the Cafe Coffee Day. So here is Dr. Swati Mishra presenting this case study to you. Before we start, let's have a 2 minute summary. Uh, when entire India was shocked by the news that the founder of CCD has committed suicide. Cafe Coffee Day CCD was the first ever coffee chain opened in India by none other than VG Siddharth. VG Siddharth was the man behind making coffee popular in a nation of tea lovers. Also, CCD owned Asia's single largest coffee estate and India's best coffee brand. The first CCD outlet was opened on July 11th, 1996 at Brigade Road, Bangalore in Karnataka. So VG Siddharth opened the first CCD outlet with an initial investment of somewhere around rupees 1.5 crores. The major challenge that was faced by Cafe Coffee chain was to make a revolutionary change in the Indian culture, where majority of the population prefer drinking tea rather than coffee. So let's have a look at how this coffee chain grew. So to stand up against this competition, CCD had built up its own retail strategy, and they had named it the three A's. Those three A's were affordability, accessibility, and acceptability. So CCD founder Mr. VG Siddharth, who had once feared the achievement of the target of around 500 tons, he ended up selling 6,500 to somewhere around 7,000 tons of branded coffee, and the exports were about 28,000 tons of coffee, and it sells another 2,000 tons locally each year and has a curing capacity of 75,000 tons, which is the largest in the country. Additionally, his cafes attract at least 40,000 to 50,000 visitors per week, and presently they were operating 1,740 CCD stores in around 250 cities. So that is the hugeness of this cafe coffee chain that I'm discussing with you. According to the resources, Mr. VG Siddharth was under a pressure from a private equity partner and other lenders. So this, uh, you know, case is basically dedicated to India's best coffee brand CCD and its owner, Mr. VG Siddharth. I have just derived a lot of information about CCD, and CCD was the first ever coffee chain opened in India. Vijay Siddharth was the man behind making coffee popular in the nation of tea lovers, actually. And also, CCD owned India's largest coffee estate and India's biggest and the best coffee brand. So this coffee chain was the one with the tagline, "A lot can happen over a coffee." Cafe Coffee Day was the one who touched millions of hearts of the Indian youth, assuring them that they need a cup of coffee and a peaceful place to, talk it out with each other. And so it happened that, the cafe coffee houses or the cafe coffee day chains grew and became so popular amongst the Indian youth. India was strictly a tea loving country, and it always has been. So let me tell you everything from pin to plain about the brand who successfully made coffee so popular in a country full of tea lovers. So, to begin with, we will first talk about how Cafe Coffee Day CCD started. I'm sure you all have visited CCD, maybe now and then, but do you know the history of Cafe Coffee brand who brought the coffee culture to India actually? During my college years, when I was doing engineering, yes, I've done engineering before my MBA, and post that I did my PhD in advertising. So when I was doing my engineering during my college years, when I started visiting the Cafe Coffee Day at Pune, I had no idea about the success story of India's largest coffee chains. And I had no idea that one fine day I would be, taking a lecture on this or presenting a case study on this. VG Siddharth was actually from Chikmagalur district of Karnataka. And he was the man behind changing the beverages culture of India actually, with a variety of drinks and of course the side dishes also, which are offered along with the coffee in the Cafe Coffee Day. And they are so delicious that they are hard to resist, which means that if you go there to grab a cup of coffee, you will end up into eating maybe some hot chocolate brownies or some sandwiches over there which are offered along with coffee. So Coffee Day Global, which is the parent of the Cafe Coffee Day chain, was incorporated in 1993. And Siddharth happened to come across a German business owner once upon a time who was interested in buying coffee beans from him. And his leading coffee brand in Germany was named as Stribo. So during that brief discussion with that German businessman, he told his story of how his brand had started in a small 10 feet shop in Hamburg. And this inspiring tale of Shibo gave Siddharth an outlook of a different world altogether. And it opened his eyes, and it also gave him a wonderful idea. And that idea was nothing but the incorporation, but the seed of incorporation of TCD. That sapling had started developing in the brain of the CCD owner, Mr. VG Siddharth. Of course, CCD faced a lots of challenges. So here is a list of the challenges, the major ones which CCD faced and how it struggled through them. So having done with the initial foundation, the major challenge faced by the cafe coffee chain was to make a revolutionary change in the Indian culture where the majority of the population preferred drinking tea rather than coffee. After the initial struggle, the homegrown cafe chain came a long way, credited with the start of the coffee shop culture in India. But then it finds itself facing tough competition, not just from the international chains such as Costa Coffee or maybe Starbucks or Barista, but also from various domestic players, and the concept cafes which were already running. So how CCD overcame these challenges, that is another important aspect to be highlighted here, because that is what we are aspiring to know. And this believe me, this tale is so inspiring that it will make you so ambitious, and your entrepreneurial ambitions will grow even stronger when you go through this case study with me. So how CCD overcame these challenges, to stand up against the competition. CCD built its retail strategy, and as I told you, that strategy was named as the 3 A's strategy. So let's talk about the first A, which was affordability. So what worked best for Indian cafe coffee chain was its combination of aspiration with affordability. We all aspire to, go to some good ambience restaurants and cafes, but the only issue that arises is affordability. So even as it gave coffee an attractive makeover, CCD's prices were kept way below its rivals. Those rivals which I've just named. So it was far below the Starbucks, far below the baristas, and giving a good ambience to people. So ensuring that it remained the favorite hangout choice for all the school and college going students or the young adults on meager paychecks from their first jobs. And yes, a lot of my friends on their first jobs used to treat us over there. I still remember after engineering. I was studying MBA that time. So accessibility was the second A. Just thinking of opening a brand and launching it is not easy. What is more important to make that brand accessible for each and every targeted customer. So this wasn't just restricted to the metro cities. If there is one singular claim that Coffee Day can make over all of its rivals, it is that it took coffee to the cities and towns across the country and offered the same experience everywhere. Yes, they were not getting, uh, you know, changed, or they were not having any change in the brand. The ambience was kept to the same perfection, same standard in every city, which means that they were maintaining the consistency in the brand that they were offering. They always believed in serving an experience along with the coffee, and they ensured it. They have always ensured that the cafes are at an arm's reach to every customer. And that is why most of the cafe coffee day houses are located at the central heart of every city, where everybody can reach very easily. And then we reach to the third A. Let's talk about the third A, which is acceptability. Today, coffee is not just seen as a beverage, but as a social glue that brings people together to relax and unwind. So, this tagline had become very popular amongst the youth, that let's catch up at CCD. This is probably one line which most Indians have said or heard at one point or the other over the last 2 decades. And that is what we call as acceptability, which means that the clients, the targeted prospect customers had accepted the brand, and not only accepted it, but accepted it wholeheartedly. So what made it so acceptable? How could they do it? Is nothing but their marketing and advertising strategies of CCD. So as we have discussed above, the CCD strategic approach, which was based on the 3 A's like affordability, accessibility, and acceptability. These 3 A's are the significant factors which contribute to the growth of the brand. Secondly, the digital marketing has become an integral part of Cafe Coffee Day's marketing plan. So CCD's fan base is always overwhelmed with over 5 million fans on its social media pages. and consistently engaging customers on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and whatnot. So the youth was the key target, and of course, they are the ones who are early adopters. But they also evolved their strategy and became more digital centric as they engaged with the new age world. CCD marketing also constantly ensures the continuous active engagements of consumers. Like they conducted, the latte art festival where customers were served coffee topped with creative latte art designs. As CCD grows digital, it also, looks at innovation in the user experiences by adopting new technologies to enhance the customer service that they were offering. So let's have a little SWOT analysis of Cafe Coffee Day before we proceed with the further discussions over the brand. The products which were so good quality and with an extremely good taste was one of the biggest strengths of Cafe Coffee Day. They had the highest number of stores, they had high brand equity amongst the youth, and of course the vertical integration that they did. These were the four major strengths of Cafe Coffee Day. Talking about its weaknesses, of course, even though the coffee was priced somewhere lower than the competitors' prices, but yet the pricing was a bit higher because, of course, the price was not only for the coffee that you were drinking, but the ambience where you were sitting and drinking it, the location where it was made available to you. So that is why the price was a bit higher. Sometimes, due to the expensiveness of the location, the selection of the sites went wrong in some cities, and that was one of the weaknesses here. And of course, later on, we saw that it showed a bit of lack of strength to maintain its brand, which we will discuss further. If we talk about the opportunities, of course, cafe coffee chain industry is one of the fastest growing industries in Asia. It entered and attracted the international markets also. We could find that there were a lot of opportunities in the international markets. And then, of course, the biggest opportunity lies in the fact that, the people now, with the incoming of the new economic policy by 91, and post that, when we saw an era of a lot of FDI in India, with a lot of multinationals coming in India, a lot of mergers and acquisitions between the MNCs. The youth could get employed into good organizations, and that was what increased the income level of the youth, and they had some spare income to spend on their leisurely activities. And this was one of the opportunities which not only was discovered by Cafe Coffee Day houses, but also grabbed by them very well. Of course, the growing competition from the other global and local coffee chains was one of the biggest threat to Cafe Coffee Day. And of course, the growing attrition rate was also another one. So with this, we have completed the first part of our discussion over the Cafe Coffee Day. Now let us discuss the continued second part of Cafe Coffee Day case study. So in this part, we will be discussing the business expansion by Cafe Coffee Day chain and the growth that this chain saw, and then what happened, which brought a severe unfortune or misfortune for this brand. So, as I told you, I'll just jot down a few important points that I had told you in the start of the session. That CCD founder Mr. VG Siddharth was fearing the achievement of target of 500 tons, but he ended up selling somewhere around 6,500 tons or to 7,000 tons of branded coffee, and his exports were about 2,800 sorry 28,000 tons of coffee, and he was selling 2,000 tons locally each year with a curing capacity of 75,000 tons, which is the largest in the country. And his coffee chain houses were attracting somewhere around 40,000 to 50,000 visitors per week across India. So the company opened its first store in 1996, as I told you, in Bangalore, and presently it's operating somewhere around 1,740 CCD stores in 250 cities across the nation. And as of 2015, CCD was making a revenue worth $450 million approximately, and it was employing 5,000 plus people, and it had 1,530 outlets across India, Austria, Czech Republic, Dubai, and Karachi. So there are some other businesses of CCD also. Which one of the major ones were the Cafe Coffee Day exports. Coffee is about exporting world-class coffee, and it has a heritage of over 130 years. One of the largest exporters of green coffee in India since 1999 was Cafe Coffee Day. And they also used to export to the Middle East, Europe, as well as Japan. So Coffee Day exports had invested tremendously in their research and development. They were applying all the learnings very successfully to improve the promotions of different coffee blends, and of course to augment its export also. So these were some of the main aspects which helped Cafe Coffee Day grow so huge and large, and they were marking their presence worldwide, and this was also promoted very well by Cafe Coffee Day chain. So then came the Coffee Day hotels and resorts. 2008 was the landmark year for Coffee Day Global Limited. Coffee Day Hotels and Resorts was formed as a subsidiary of Coffee Day Global Limited. The Chikmagalur resort of the Sarai was declared open that year. So, of course, there were other very well inspired resorts of Cafe Coffee Day, at Chikmagalur. Then there was one at Bandipur, there was one at Kabini, the waterfront, and there was one at Andamans, which was at Barefoot Havelock. So, uh, you know, Cafe Coffee Day was growing at a very fast pace, doing tremendously well, and of course, it was achieving a lot of awards also. So here is a small list of few awards that they had got. I couldn't gather all of them. The ones which I found very relevant, I'm showing to you. Cafe Coffee Day won the Times Food Award under the Best Coffee Bar in 2007. It won the Burpers Choice Award by the users of burp.com in 2008. The global chain of Coffee Day won an award for Retailer of the Year by Asia Retail Congress in 2009. Cafe Coffee Day also won the Indian Hospitality Excellence Award in 2010. Cafe Coffee Day was ranked as 26th most trusted service brand in India, and by brand equity, this was done by Economic Times in 2012. Cafe Coffee Day was awarded the NCPEDP Shell Helen Keller Award 2013 by National Center for Promotion of Employment for Disabled People. Cafe Coffee Day Global got awarded for the best customer service in cafe restaurant by Star Retailer Awards in 2013, and the list is endless. So, they were achieving a lot of recognition throughout the nation and outside also, internationally also. They were getting recognized, they were getting awarded, they were receiving rewards also. There are a few more awards, like, Cafe Coffee Day won the Brand Excellence Award in the retail sector in 2013. Coffee Day Global was awarded the Bronze Prize by the Coffee Board of India for being the third best exporter of green coffee in 2012. Coffee Day Global was awarded as the Retailer of the Year for the Retail Excellence by ABP News in 2014. Cafe Coffee Day was ranked as 22nd most trusted service brand in India, as 27th most exciting brand in India under the category of food services in 2014. The promoter, Mr. V.G. Siddharth, was awarded ET Retail Hall of Fame for his contribution to the growth in retail sector in 2014. So now let's talk a bit about the man behind Cafe Coffee Chain, Mr. V.G. Siddharth. He was the man whose mind was behind the successful coffee chains in India. He was the man less famous by his name, but his hard work. It is always said that your actions speak louder than words. And that was actually Mr. V.G. Siddharth himself, whose actions used to speak louder than words. He could have easily survived with the 350 acres of the estate, his family owned estate. But instead, he was too ambitious and he decided to start something that actually appealed to him. Something created by him, something on his own. Indian stock market at JM Financial under the tutelage of Mahendra Company in 1983 after completing his master's degree in Bangalore University. Then he bought Sivan Securities in 1984 and turned it into a highly successful investment banking and stockbroking company. It was renamed Way to Wealth Securities in 2000. In 1992, Siddharth started his coffee business, amalgamated the bean company trading and integrated the coffee business, which ranges from the procuring, processing, roasting coffee beans, then retailing of those coffee products. So this company's revenue actually stands at rupees 2016 crores for the financial year 2018. After the success of the coffee venture, Siddharth launched India's first coffee cafe by the name of Cafe Coffee Day at Brigade Road, Bangalore in 1996. I've already told you this initially at the start of the case study. So internationally, CCD outlets are also present in Vienna, Czech Republic, Nepal, Egypt also. He also served on the board of directors of Mindtree GTV, Liquid Crystal, Way to Wealth Brokers, Coffee Day Natural Resources, and Way to Wealth Securities. And he was doing brilliantly well. So now we come to the main part of the case study as to what happened which led to the sad demise of this big coffee chain's owner, Mr. V.G. Siddharth. What happened that made him commit suicide? On Tuesday, 30th July 2019, Cafe Coffee Day chain Enterprises had confirmed that its managing director, Mr. VG Siddharth had been missing since Monday 29th July 2019, and that the company, with the help of concerned authorities, were trying to trace him, but he was not to be found. On 29th July 2019, Siddharth had told his driver that he was going for a walk near the bridge and asked him to wait at a distance. Meanwhile, a fisherman had claimed that he saw someone jumping off that bridge. When he did not return after 2 hours, the driver approached the police and lodged a missing complaint. And from there, a seed of VG Siddharth's death was sown. Shares of Coffee Day Enterprises immediately dropped to 20% and they hit the lower circuit limit as well as 52-week low of rupees 154.05 as a piece on the BSE after news surfaced that its founder had gone missing. On Wednesday, 31st July 2019, his body was found at the Horse Bazaar beach by local fishermen who informed the police. The body had washed ashore near Ulal and was fished out by a local fisherman. VG Siddharth left a letter allegedly wrote to Coffee Day Enterprises board. He said that he failed to create the profitable business model despite his best efforts. He goes on to say, I would never cheat or mislead anybody intentionally. I have failed as an entrepreneur. News reports say that the man who made coffee popular in a nation of tea lovers referred to the three main issues in his letters to the board. One was the pressure from the private equity partners who were forcing him to buy back his shares. Second was harassment from the previous DG income tax. And third was the tremendous pressure from the other lenders. All the issues center on the liquidity and debt that Siddharth and Coffee Day Enterprises were facing, and which ultimately culminated in the entrepreneur selling his stake in Mindtree earlier this year. And then came the downfall of Cafe Coffee Day. Let's discuss some major reasons behind this, and just to enlighten you as to what happened that made such a successful coffee brand face its major decline. So BSR Associates were their main auditors who used to audit their outlets. The auditor wrote a letter to the shareholders of CCD that they have not audited 40 subsidiaries of Cafe Coffee Day. So this was the reason that the shareholders had started backing off. They backed off and they denied to provide further funds to the Cafe Coffee Day chain. Meanwhile, the income tax department, the IT department, raided on Cafe Coffee Day retail chains and they found about rupees 362 crores concealed income. VG Siddharth in his letter had mentioned that the income tax department was attaching their and then taking the possession of their Coffee Day shares, although the revised returns have to be, have been filled by them. So because they were in such a heavy debt, they started taking short-term loans in the form of debentures, with high interest rates to pay off their long-term debts. And rather, in turn, it increased their debt and this resulted in more heavy debt burden on the organization and the entrepreneur himself. So, with this, we have almost reached to the end of this case study. We have discussed in a detailed length about this, cafe coffee day house, and we have tried to understand as to, what were the major reasons behind the, such a successful man like Mr. V.G. Siddharth committing, suicide. Suicide is, such a, drastic and sad decision for any of the entrepreneurs who are actually doing flourishingly well. And in fact, even for the entrepreneurs who have just started or landed into the business, one has to understand that suicide is never an option. It is actually a very cowardly decision which is taken by a lot of people. We see them, in fact, even in youth also, because there are so many people who have high hopes with you. For the youth, I will say that your family members, your relatives, your parents, especially, I'm not talking about the hopes, by which I mean that they have hopes of your growth and your success, but the hope to live with you, to be with you forever till they are alive. Because life is not so small, and problems are never going to be the same. You know, there is always going to be an end to the problems. So, there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this case of Mr. V.T. Siddharth. A person who could have easily led his life with the 350 acres estate of his family. He was so ambitious and he was doing so flourishingly well. But instead of solving out the issues, resolving the liquidity issues, paying back the debts through some means or measures, he found it easier to commit suicide. It might be an easy act, but it is never an option to be taken. And this is my message to all the youth out there who are sitting and listening to this case study today, who have gone through this entire session of this case study, that tomorrow you are also going to be an entrepreneur. But the first and the most foremost thing that you need to learn is that you have to develop yourself as a human being, as a person who's so strong that he's always ready to face any kind of problems or troubles that are arising in front of him. So suicide is never an option in front of you. You always have to keep it in your mind that no matter what happens, I have to fight, I have to struggle, and I have to prove that I am worthy enough to grow once again. you know it's okay to fall, it's always okay to fall, but it's more important how well you bounce back, or how high you bounce back. So, there were so many employees, there were so many shareholders, there were so many stakeholders, and of course his family, who were showing a trust in him, who had believed in him. And what did he do with their beliefs and their trust? Just by his one little decision, one little wrong decision that he took, he broke their trust, he broke their hopes, he shattered their dreams. And this is what a lot of people continue to do every day. We hear so many news of such kind without recognizing the fact that, when you are becoming an entrepreneur or when you are starting your business, there wouldn't be a single business which is not facing any kind of issues. There are multiple types of issues which are faced by lots and lots of entrepreneurs, but suicide shall never be an option for anybody. And this is the message that I want to send to all my viewers today, who have patiently listened to me today. And as we discussed such a um, purely grown brand in a matter of a decade and a half, a brand which grew from nothing to something so big, which created a culture in India, which became such a hot favorite brand amongst the youth. It is not very easy to, actually manipulate the youth. I agree that Indian youth is very welcoming, but they are very intelligent. They would not accept a brand who's just trying to fool them. They would only accept the brand which is actually giving some type of good experience and some kind of good value. And they had started recognizing this brand, and they had started, trusting this brand. So an entrepreneur's duty is to, keep that faith and keep that trust alive amongst its customers and the clients who are believing in you, and especially the shareholders and the stakeholders who are believing in you. So, by committing such cowardly acts, we not only prove that we have been weak enough, but we also, rather shatter the dreams of multiple people who are linked and associated with us in our personal lives and in our professional lives as well. An entrepreneur has to have the capacities to deal with all sorts of pressures, and an entrepreneur has to continuously look for measures to solve those issues and pressures rather than, falling prey to them. Even if he was facing any kind of burdens or any kind of blackmailing was occurring, or maybe pressurizing was done by the income tax department, he could have thought of, he was the man of such a big successful brand, he could have actually thought of sorting it out somehow. There are, laws in our country, and you are supposed to find ways out to, and of course ethical ways out, to, sort out the issues and problems that are in front of you.